Hey guys, and thank you so much for tuning into the Kyle Hartman Project. It really means the world to me that you guys are lending me your time to find out what I have to put out on the show. Today's episode is a part one of a two-part series that I do with Shep in the Wild, an Iraq war veteran. In the episode, we cover many things, which is why we made it a special two-episode series. We cover PTSD, abuse, overcoming life's challenges, fitness and health, and a number of other things. Shep is a social media guru, and he's using his storytelling, creative abilities to share his message with the world. If you stick around to the end of the episode, Shep has a couple goodies that he gives away because he is a brand ambassador for a couple companies. First, before I start, I want to give a special thank you to Backpack Boy Beats for all the music that you're hearing in my episodes. Without further ado, I hope you all can enjoy the show.
Backpack. What up?
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. This is episode 26 of the Kyle Hartman Project. Today's episode is part one of a two-part series with Iraq war veteran Shep in the Wild, who is joining me all the way from Columbus, Ohio. The second part of the series will be released in just 1 week from today. Shep is originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where he enlisted for the Minnesota National Guard just 2 short months before Operation Iraqi Freedom officially began back in 2003. He served honorably for 8 years as an Abrams tank crewman, earning 7 different medals and a 14-month deployment during his time in. Today, we're going to discuss some deeper topics that we thought many people could relate to on many levels. If you have ever experienced anxiety, depression, PTSD, or abuse, you'll definitely want to stick around for this episode and next episode, as Shep will be taking a dive into some of the challenges he has faced both in and out of the military, and what key factors we should pay attention to when dealing with our personal adversities. Shep is a father and is engaged, and his passions are weightlifting, archery, and bow hunting. He also has a great interest in storytelling and has found a creative outlet to share his journey through social media, podcasts, and other resources. He is a brand ambassador for Blackwater watches and Bucked Up supplements, and we'll have some goodies related to those two brands, so stick around for that later on. Now let's cut to the chase. Really quick before I bring on Shep, today's guest, I want to personally thank each and every one of you for giving us your time today on the show. Without further ado, I want to welcome my battle buddy, Shep in the Wild, to the show. Shep, thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
All right, so tell me, Shep, I know we discussed a lot of things on the phone. You and I are both pretty passionate about a lot of the things I just said in the introduction. What sort of things changed in your life, just from joining the military and experiencing such a different side of the world, and what things were good and what things were bad in those changes?
I gotta say, as far as what changed, it was a shell shock. I went from being a teenage punk rocker with no hope for the future and no money for college to deciding on a whim that I was going to join the Army because I didn't have any other options, really. The recruiter called me and I said, yeah, let's do it, but you got to get me out of here right now. And so what happened is 2 weeks from the day that I shook the recruiter's hand for the first time, I found myself standing in front of a drill sergeant in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And my whole world was turned upside down. And like you mentioned earlier, it wasn't too long from there. The war actually begun while I was in base training.
That's pretty interesting, Shep. Thank you for sharing that. So for anybody listening out there, what are some things that, you would say are some common known issues that our veterans might suffer? And, what are some of the things that you've personally experienced that, maybe many civilians hear about? I know I personally know a lot of people that are affected by certain issues like PTSD and things of that nature. What are some of the things you've experienced within your journey there?
I think the toughest thing is the transition. They don't train you or tell you very much about what life is actually going to be like or what you're going to have to go through. You're very used to a regimented lifestyle, as you know, and coming out of that and being expected to just kind of handle things in very different manners is very difficult and pretty daunting. And if you compound that with issues of PTSD or depression from service-related incidents, say you were, blown up in a convoy in Iraq, or maybe you had to engage with the enemy, there's a litany of things that you have to deal with in addition to relearning how to live your life. And there's really no book out there or real support for how to get through that.
Right. I agree with what you just said there. I think that, would you say that transitioning out of that lifestyle, do you think that's what makes the depression a lot easier to fall into once you're out of the military? Because, when you're engulfed in this lifestyle and you're trained so hard to do, very strict things, and then you get to this world where none of that applies, and you're already dealing with some issues that you've brought with you from that experience. I mean, is that where you think the big disconnect is for getting some of these men and women help?
I'm going to go ahead and speak from my own experience, the best that I know.
Okay.
And I want to speak for it, but I can tell you that coming out of high school at 18 years old as a child and going into an environment where you're told everything, what to do, when to do it, how to do it, shave at this time, eat at this time, train at this time, go to sleep this time, wake up at this time. You don't have to think for yourself at all. And you're in a place where you are just going and you are not actually growing. And it makes the process of growing up slower. So for me personally, when I got out of the military, I found that I had missed a lot of growing up, per se. Certainly I had faced some very adult issues, but I was not an adult. And trying to learn how to do things like create a budget for myself or create my own timetable so that I had some structure about my life. These are all things that I didn't have to think about for myself. And so, like I said, just going back to having some of the issues of being in service and dealing with depression and whatnot, these things become compounded. And as far as the depression goes and how you deal with everything, there's no one there to hold your hand or tell you how to get it done. Going to the VA can be a challenge. There's a lot of veterans out there that sit around and cry and basically say, oh, there's nobody to help me. I'm not getting the care that I need. But the thing of it is you have to remember where you've been and what you've accomplished. And nobody tells you this, but this is some pretty important stuff. You have to remember your training, and you have to remember your victories in life. You're a soldier.
Yeah.
You've been trained to do things that most people never even dream of doing. And you have overcome obstacles that most people never have to face. And so what I think you need to look back on is where you've been and what you've overcome and realize that it's about mentality.
Would you say that? Go ahead.
You might have some things that are difficult that you haven't experienced yet that most people are running through right next to you, going through life like it's nothing because they've been doing it for much longer than you have. But that doesn't mean that you're broken or incapable. It just means that this is something new to you. And so dominate this new mission of living a new and healthy life. And you need to focus on three things: self, health, and wealth. And if you can focus on those three things, there isn't much that can stop you. You have to be at 100% on all of those, but it's certainly not impossible.
Would you say that one of the things, I guess for me, one of the things that I found myself doing a lot since I've been out of the military, despite my experience, whether my experiences were good or bad at times, I find myself just consistently staying thankful for the training and just the experience as a whole. Almost because, like you said, it's helped me to remember my potential. When I think back on certain times in the service, there was times where I pushed myself to limits that I never thought I would exceed. And so now looking back and when I face challenges in the civilian life, those are the times that I'm kind of thankful for, because they've proven to me already that, okay, you can get through this. You just have to make the choice to do it, and like, does that sound similar at all for you? I mean, you went through...
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you might come up against something in the civilian world that you think it's really difficult, or it might even be so daunting to you that it becomes depressing. But personally, for me, when I run into situations like that, I look back and I think, without using swearing, because I think I want to use swearing in this phrase here, but I guess
you can use swearing on my show. It's okay.
Okay. Well, I to myself, I would say, motherfucker, you survived an explosion. Yes. Motherfucker, you survived a war. You stupid son of a bitch, why are you crying? You've done X, Y, and Z. Remember that. Now go out there, back up to your fucking soldier, and get it done.
I love it.
But it's really easy if you have adopted this victim mentality, which is very common in the veteran community.
Yeah.
That we're broken. People tell us we're broken. We're not able to do this. This idea that we're angry veterans. Stay away from me. I'm an angry veteran. It doesn't help anybody.
What?
And it's completely backwards from the thinking that we need to engage in order to be successful.
What would you recommend for anybody out there that's, going through some type of struggle or battle with any sort of, condition, or I wouldn't say condition, but, anxiety and depression, PTSD, if anybody's going through a struggle right now with that, and, they kind of have that plague above them that, this is it for them. This is their life. They're in and out of taking different medications. I mean, things just don't feel right to them. Where would you direct them to start first? I know you said it has to come from within, but I mean, what certain things would you tell them to start trying to think about? I know you've dove into fitness and weightlifting and archery and things. I mean, so what kind of suggestions, I guess, would you have for somebody in that position? Because I know you and I have both been there at times.
So I think it's a war on two fronts, right? It's like you mentioned, it's internal, but it's also external. And so we'll cover that real quick. I think a lot of veterans who consider themselves broken or unable to go on in life are suffering from the victim mentality, which I kind of just touched on. And what that means is that you believe that things are happening to you instead of because of you, right? You are not taking control of the situation across the board. You just kind of let life go by and you don't have your hands on the reins. The trouble with that is nothing will change until you change.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't sit around and think like, woe is me. Someday something must come along and things will be better because I just don't know what to do. No, you have to take action. And the best way to do that is to remember that you are not the sum of your failures. You might have had some failures, but failure is actually a good thing. Failure should, with the right mentality, teach you how to be successful. If you get punched in the face enough, eventually you're going to learn how to not get punched in the face.
Exactly.
And you need to remember that change is a good thing as well. A lot of people are afraid of change, but and that's really more of a social thing. People criticize other people like, "Oh, you changed. I don't know who you are anymore. You changed." Change is awesome. Like, has anyone ever criticized a flower for going through its phases of blooming? Like, now you look different. Now I don't like this flower. It doesn't make sense at all. Change is a good thing. It's a very natural thing to happen. So we have to remember that you're not the sum of your failures. There's only good choices and bad choices. And so long as you do your best every day to better yourself and make as many good choices as you can, you're going to be fine. And that's where it comes into action, making good choices, finding things that put yourself into what I call flow state. So what I've been able to find is I get best into flow state when I'm doing archery, which is something that requires singular focus. When I pull that string back and I've got the arrow on target, I can't think about anything else but releasing that arrow on target and making it hit the bullseye. It doesn't matter if the kids are crying, if I have no money in the bank account, if the house is on fire. The only thing I can think about is releasing that arrow and hitting that target. And weightlifting does the same thing for me. So internally you have to change your thinking, and then you have to find things that reinforce that action or that mentality. And then I guess I throw in a third fork on that and just say you need to look at who you're surrounding yourself with. You know, are you surrounding yourself with negative people? Are you taking on negative messages that are unnecessary? Are there people in your life who are being a bad influence? Those people are poison, and they'll kill you.
Just like somebody in one of your squads or platoons.
Yeah, it could be in your squad, it could be in your platoon, it could be your best friend, it could be your mother.
Exactly.
If someone is putting negativity on you, you need to address that and cut it off. If you had cancer, you wouldn't just sit there and go, well, this is my favorite cancer. You know, I'm friends with this cancer, I can't get rid of it. No, absolutely not.
What do you think makes it so hard for us to get away from those negative influences?
Emotions.
Fear?
Fear, emotion, yeah, fear is an emotion.
Caring about what the people think more?
Right, absolutely, caring about what other people think. What I found is that's worked for me, especially on the most basic things. Going to the gym, for instance. When I wake up and I have a day where I don't want to go to the gym, I need to remember what the alternative is. And for me, I've decided that it's a very black and white alternative. Not many people know this, but I have psoriatic arthritis. And that prevents me from doing a lot if I allow it to prevent me from doing anything, right? So it's a mentality thing. So I made it very black and white. If I don't go to the gym, the alternative is death. Black and white.
Right.
If I don't do this action, my body will suffer to the point where I may lose out on the opportunity to spend time with my family. I may even end up in a wheelchair again because I was in a wheelchair. Fortunately, I pushed myself and now I'm lifting over 300 pounds. But that's the way it is. And so many people get caught up in the nuances and people's feelings, and they need to just break it down to, look, this is acceptable and this is not. And until you can do that, you're going to run into some trouble and some roadblocks that are going to stop you.
And I can tell you firsthand, I never was able to go to a gym. I was always content being tall, skinny. Even in the military, you know, I was fit because I did the PT, but I never did anything on the outside to, you know, really do. But one thing I can suggest to anybody out there is, you know, if you're not focusing on your temple, your health, you know, your diet. I'm not saying you have to eat a strict vegan diet. I'm just saying if you're not focusing on you and, you know, your sleep schedule and things that are of importance to your health and fitness, a lot of these problems within mentally, you know, within your head, and a lot of these things that you're suffering from are going to have a harder time, you know, getting better if you're not taking care of your health. And Shep, do you want to touch on that at all too? I mean, you were about to, I think, go right up that alley.
Yeah, and I'll be 100% honest. Like, I'm not your guru. I'm not anybody's perfect example by any means. I'm a work in progress every single day. I think it's important to live by a few rules and be self-aware, work hard, you know, have perspective is super important.
Yeah.
Push yourself, don't give up. And so I'm always a work in progress. Getting on to health, I I've recently started to actually go on a diet and understand and learn and become a student of the things that I'm engaging in, which is super important. You have to commit to what it is that you're trying to do if you want to make any real change. And I've been working out in the gym for basically all of 2017, and I'd seen some improvement in strength, but not really any improvement in weight loss. And overall, I was just kind of spinning my wheels.
But like you said, though,
I didn't want to accept that I had to change my diet or do cardio or any of those things. And one day it just clicked, and I decided that, it wasn't worth holding on to my bad diet. It wasn't worth holding on to my stubbornness. And since I actually started getting into the nutrition side of it, understanding it, I'm down 10 pounds. I've seen some pretty big increases in strength and ability, and in mobility, of course, which is a big deal for me with my arthritis. And I just had to commit. I had to, like I said, become a student of it. And I try to attack everything that I'm really going to get serious about in that way. So, when I was just figuring out archery, I would go and I would learn everything I could. It's been hours on YouTube learning about archery and learning about the different grains of arrows and different types of bows and what they did and how they worked. And you can do that with anything. I mean, if there's anything you ever want to know, there's this great website called Google. Yeah.
So,
and it'll teach you anything you want to know. And YouTube does the same thing if you're an audiovisual type person. So I'm not a learned person. I have a degree in auto body repair, and I basically didn't get very far in that industry. So I would say, yes, I have a college degree, but I'm much more schooled in the way of life, or schooled in the streets.
Street smarts.
Street smart. Schooled in the street. I grew up in a small town. Who am I kidding? I'm not kidding anybody. But, the Army taught me a lot, and I've taught myself a lot, and that comes down to what we're talking about, mentality. I've made the choice that I'm not going to sit around and just wait for the bus to come by, because it's not going to come by. No one is going to come to my door and knock and hand me the keys to success. If I want something, I have to figure it out.
Yeah. I don't doubt that you're going to achieve greatness just with life, because I'm very inspired by what you've already been able to accomplish. One question I have, we got about 3 minutes left on this first segment of our 2 segments, so I want to let you get in your special at the end. But one last question I have for you: before you kind of reached all of this enlightenment, and before you obtained all this wonderful wisdom that you're sharing with all of us, what point in your life, what was the deciding factor for you? I know you said one day you just decided, but what was causing you to just have enough and be like, okay, I need to start making better decisions? Pain?
Just constant pain. That's the simplest way that I can put it, because we're supposed to grow as people.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a long time when I did not grow at all. I hadn't moved the stone one single inch. And I had even regressed. There was a point in time when I had come back from my deployment and I was out of the military. But if you had come up to me and asked me about my military service, I would have spoken to you about it as if it happened to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I had compartmentalized it and removed myself from it, because that was the only way that I could deal with it. But I wasn't doing anything about my feelings about that or about the pain that was there, and it was keeping me in place.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point when you hit rock bottom, or you just can't take any more. And I've been there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Many soldiers have.
What's that?
Many soldiers have.
Yeah, and there comes a point when you get older and a little bit smarter, and you start to realize that you're coming closer and closer to that, and maybe you don't go all the way, and you start to initiate those changes in your life sooner. So
yeah.
I can't give you an exact instance or reason. I just can tell you it basically just comes down to pain.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Make sure you guys check into the second segment. We're going to cap it off here. Shep, I'm going to leave it to you. let's talk about one of these brands that you're an ambassador for. I hear you might have a goodie.
Well, first I want to mention my turkey hunt with some amazing guys who've really helped me out in my ventures of learning how to hunt. I'm going to be going on a turkey hunt here, my first turkey hunt ever with DIY Hunter Official. Those guys are recently sponsored by Sick Gear. I'm very excited for them and for their success, and I want to thank them so much for taking me out on this turkey hunt and teaching me how to hunt. And then just getting up through my sponsors there, Bucked Up Subs. Go to buckedupsubs.com and enter the code SHEP20, save 20% on all of your workout supplements.
Yes.
This is no BS stuff. It's all natural whey protein. So use SHEP20 for 20% off. And then also Blackwater watches. Use the code SHEP10 and get yourself some awesome beard oil and watches. 50%.
I will include all of that information in the summary of this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is the first segment of 2 segments in this series. I think, Shep, we're going to keep episode 26, and then we're just going to have series 1 and 2, I think. So thank you so much for joining me on the show. For everybody that tuned in on your Instagram live feed, I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I can't thank you enough for joining Shep, joining me. Next segment, we might try to do it live together. I'll be a little more advanced on technology. But that is all we have. Thanks for joining.